Right. Asma, take it away. All yours.
Thank you so much. So, first, thank you, Umaima and Jennifer, for such great presentations. I am Asma, based in Cairo, Egypt. I work with Soliya in the Connect program, and the Connect program designed to be integrated into an existing curriculum or offered as an independent study uses an online facilitated dialogue model that connects young people globally. We have 4 modules. So please, Hope, can you go to the first slide? Of course, some of the methods that we use overlaps with what Umaima and Jennifer went through. I will tackle these things from different aspects and go in depth into others. So in general, the virtual exchange wants to focus the exchange on subject matter. However, a key learning opportunity of the Connect program model takes place through the free-flowing dialogue that enables participants to gain global perspectives and develop global competencies that ensures a change in the cultural attitudes. Through cross-cultural dialogue and the exposition to peers from different cultural backgrounds, you are best placed to assess knowledge gained and raise cultural awareness as a result of the exchange. Here I will focus on the impact assessment around empathy, cross-cultural understanding, and development of global competencies, which is pretty much hard to measure or, you know. So would you please Hope, yes, thank you. Thank you for skimming through as I go. So before I talk about the impact assessment, it's important to be clear on your program goals, right? So monitoring usually starts even before the program starts, and that's by revising your program goals. Here's, I will demonstrate the Connect program goals very quickly. So critical awareness and critical thinking. We aim to help students develop a clearer understanding of their own perspective and develop an awareness of the emotions, assumptions, values, biases, social norms, as well as one's personal relationship with the issues. Second one is empathy. We enhance students' ability to appreciate and respect, even if not agreeing with, diverse perspectives. Next slide, please, Hope. And recognizing these diverse views as a result of a thought process that is highly affected by social norms, biases, emotions, and experiences, just as one's own views. The third goal is cross-cultural communication and collaboration. The Connect program goal is also to develop participants' cross-cultural communication skills and ability to engage in constructive dialogues. The last goal is activation, through which we develop an awareness of self and other, communication skills, and a way of thinking that can be applied to one's personal and professional life beyond the scope of the program. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, it's important to be very clear on the learning goals. And as you saw the previous slides, for us, the more specifically we can define these goals, the better. So the monitoring starts before the program, and after each program semester, we evaluate the data and make sure it aligns with our goals and is relevant to their experiences.
Asma, can I just ask one little question about the goals and how you came up with those specific items, and were they scaffolded from something in the research from a larger organization, or is this specific that Soliya came up with, or where are they sort of grounded? Where do the goals come from?
Of course. So it comes from the design. Soliya implements the Connect program, and it aims that through the 4 different modules that we enable students to tackle and achieve these goals. I was just going to say that through the M&E and of course the implementation, one must make sure that the program design enables participants to reach these goals. So for instance, in answering your question, Hope, as one of our goals is to enable participants to develop empathy and understanding, we should build in time for participants to share stories and get to know one another. As our goal is for them to develop skills like asking good questions, active listening, then our facilitators should be equipped with activities to support the development of these skills that they can practice then through the dialogue. Once this is done, now we are on how we assess that impact. So we use a pre and post program surveys for assessing impact quantitatively. We also complement the quantitative data with some qualitative assessment through reflection papers and weekly journals. I will go deeper into this. So yes, thank you. We do both pre and post program semester. As much as possible, we work for measurement tools that have been tried and validated in previous research. There is a lot of literature on how to assess some of the goals described before, and I will be sharing some examples we have been using for the past years that have consistently yielded strong results. Also, as we want to run a more scientifically robust study, we try testing our participants in the program against a control group. A control group consists of what is called matched participants, or participants who are as similar as possible to the ones who will participate in the virtual exchange, but who won't go through the virtual exchange experience. The idea is to survey both participants as well as the control group to compare results. We have done that with the Connect program a few times, and we were able to see incredible results, where we can see how the participants who go through the Connect program indeed showed improved outcomes on our measurement tools, while the control group do not improve. And this enables us to say with confidence that this is due to the participation in the Connect program, that the participants improved in the ways we have seen. Finally, there are several measures that when we rely on participants self-reporting on, they may be difficult to interpret. I will explain the idea of the triangulating data later in the presentation. Can we go to the next slide, please? So here's an example, and Jennifer tackled that before, so that self-other overlap. As Hope said, it measures how other groups can see themselves, and it's really easy when you put a visual for someone to select without putting the idea in their head. They can easily see, where am I against such group? For the Connect program, we consistently see great results on this, with participants and image towards others moved by 2 points. So on this scale of the 7-point scale, what we see generally is participants moving from image C to E. Can we move to the next slide, please? Another consistently strong measurement tool for empathy and commonality and understanding is the feeling thermometer, which, as the name indicates, measures our feeling towards the other, as described in terms of temperature, cold being unfavorable and warm being favorable. Here we see it in a sliding scale, which typically goes for 0 to 200. This will give you very solid results, but you don't have to do that. And you don't have to use a sliding scale either. You can always give response options from 0 to 10, being very cold and favorable, and 10 very warm, favorable. The last method here is the feeling heard and respected. This is asked through pretty straightforward questions, as you see below. We wanted to highlight this measure because research shows that in any cross-cultural dialogue, there is generally a dominant and less dominant culture, right? For those who perceive themselves as less dominant, it's actually very important for their learning to start by feeling heard and respected as the first step towards greater understanding. A very important goal for that less dominant group is to feel heard and respected. Next, I want to go through the global competencies, which is one of the key learning outcomes of the Connect program, and of course, other types of virtual exchange is enabling participants to develop global competencies such as cross-cultural communication skills, teamwork, collaboration skills, critical thinking, leadership, digital competencies, and English language skills for non-native speakers, etc., etc. We also understand that universities and employers globally talk about a skill gap between education to employment. And the above listed skills are among the one employers mention as a priority for them. So global competencies that some people refer to as soft skills are also very hard to measure through surveys that rely on self-reporting. And here are two suggestions for strengthening your assessment of skill development. One, survey professors and facilitators about participants' learning. The second one, address students' biased self-reporting through multiple survey points or ask them to reflect back. The first point here, this is what we refer to above as triangulating data collection. Meaning, because we don't trust fully how students report on their own skill development, we will collect data from several sources to increase our confidence in those results. If you are using the Connect program model I described, you will have facilitators in sessions who can observe the change in participants during the virtual exchange experience. And you as an M&E officer, you also observe the participants. So collecting data from professors and facilitators regarding the observation of the students as they change over the course can be your added data points. For the second bullet, let's look at that more closely in the next slide. I think it's not this slide. Oh, can you go to slide? No, the next one, not the previous one. Can you? Okay. It's slide 34. I'm sorry about that. Yes, please. So through observations, we notice that oftentimes participants tend to overestimate their skills level before they join the program. This is absolutely normal. And once they go through the program, they realize how much they lack on these skills. And so these increased self-awareness leads to a possible pattern where it appears as though going through the program reduces the participant skills, whereas in reality, they have become more aware of their shortcoming and what they need to learn. I really hope the background noise of my dog isn't that disturbing. To address this sort of bias from self-reporting, we have found two strategies that work very well, either through multiple survey points or by asking participants to reflect back. Meaning, you can ask students to rate their skill level at 3 different times. One before the program, one halfway the program, and one at the end of the program, through 3 surveys. In asking students about their skill before the program, they reflect their overestimated assessment of their skill. Then at the midpoint, this is when you will get a more accurate assessment of their skill. It's halfway through the program, they realize how they better assess their actual skill, but haven't experienced enough of the exchange to have improved the skills yet. In your analysis, you can then compare the midpoint result to the post-program result, and that will show you a more accurate assessment on the skill improvement. Another option, if you don't want to have participants complete 3 surveys, is to include a reflective question in the post-survey, like the example below. Can you please? Basically, before the program, you can ask them to rate their skill, then ask the exact same question after or in the post-program survey, and then you add a question like that. Now think back to where you started the exchange and describe what you felt then about that statement. One can think, if I'm going to ask the question and reflect in the post-program, why do we ask it in the pre-program to begin with? This is simply to help participants themselves to reflect back on that. It really helps. So when you put something like, this is what you assessed yourself before the program, now think before you started the program, how you felt about that. And you see, this is asking them, in your analysis, you compare results from these post-program reflections on before the program to the assessment of the skills after the program. Again, this works very well and provides more accurate data. Can we go to the next slide, please? I really will skim very quickly through these examples of ways to ask about different competencies. So in the next slide, you can actually, can you move, please? Hope for the next slide. The other one, please. 37. Yeah, that's 37. So you can also ask straightforward questions on self-assessment on skills, as long as you will triangulate data through other sources and use the tactics described before in regulating the data. Here are some examples of questions we ask for the Connect program. And again, it's very important. So as you remember, the goals as stated for the Connect program, here we reflect on it. So it's really very important that you match your questions to your program goals. What you are aiming to activate your participants on, what behavior change do you expect to see? Then you design your questions accordingly. The next slide is the qualitative assessment. Like any educational program, which slide is this? Hope is qualitative. Can we go to the qualitative assessment? The qualitative assessment I'm not sure. Okay, it should be after this one, 30, yes. There it is, thank you so much. So like any educational program, there is a lot of variation in levels of learning through a virtual exchange. Impact can vary very significantly between participants based on their needs and past experience. Qualitative assessment can be really good complement to provide a more detailed picture on participants' learning. It can also be a tool to understand what can be improved for the future. You can include some typical open-ended questions in the survey or conduct end of program interviews or focus group discussion like Umayma mentioned in her presentation. Your question can focus on asking participants to describe the most important learning moment. What contributed to their learning the most? And what can be improved? This can give you a good indication on what seems to work and what needs refinement. We also recommend asking participants to write an end of program reflection paper. It doesn't have to be long at all, 1 or 2 pages, but it's usually where we gain deeper understanding on participants' learning. What were the most transformational moments for them? And another great tool is to ask students to keep weekly journal. In our model, we don't do we don't offer the weekly journal as a requirement at all. It's optional, and this is very useful for impact assessment as well as enriching participants' learning experience. You know, through these weekly journals, they can see change as it occurs on a weekly basis. The students themselves as well can use this as a tool to reinforce their learning. As they go back to reflect on their views in the earlier parts of the program, they gain important insights into their learning journey through the virtual exchange. The last slide, I'm sharing here with you some of the codes from the qualitative data I've collected before that really answers and show the impact as a result of the virtual exchange and the Connect program. So I'm leaving this here, and I'm looking forward if you have any questions.